I don't want to waste your time here. Let's just go ahead and let's start this draft. I'm assuming we're going to have a great one because last time we drafted at the 110 just so I could show you how ugly your draft is probably going to end up if you do not get a top 6 pick. But hell, I decided to fire this bad boy up and take number 5. So we should be able to get one of the elite level quarterbacks. We should have a strong foundation to build around it. I'm going to be very excited about this team. Real quick, as we wait for Dylan to take Patrick Mahomes at 1, if you have not done so already, drop a like on this live stream. If you're watching this as a video later on and play Dynasty Fantasy Football, you better be subscribed to the channel. And let's go ahead and let's take Justin Herbert here. Or do we want Lawrence? We're going to go ahead. We're going to take Herbert at 5. I think you make the argument that if you would possibly want to go with Trevor Lawrence here instead, it is what it is. I think it is going to be up to your personal preference. And of course, if you want to get into our next draft, if you want to draft with us, period, you can find the link to Underdog Fantasy where they just launched a $1 million best ball contest. We're going to be drafting on the main channel there. Drafts very often. And when you sign up with promo code FLOCK, they'll match your first deposit dollar for dollar up to $100. And you'll get our 2023 Dynasty Fantasy Football rankings emailed to you with a minimum of a $10 deposit. So make sure you take advantage of that. But please let me know in the live chat, who do you prefer? Are you going to go Justin Herbert or Trevor Lawrence? Because I think that is honestly really the only decision that I have there inside the top 5 to 6. I think based on the wide receiver value that we are going to be able to get later on in the draft, I'm not too inclined to go with Jefferson there. Maybe Chase could be in play if Higgins ends up getting traded. Bingle says he's still going Herbert. Luke says Herbert. Bobcat says Herbert as well. Hassan Lawrence, Mr. Padilla, happy to see you out here, my friend, says Herbert. So yeah, it looks like the majority of people will still be going ahead and taking Justin Herbert over Trevor Lawrence, which clearly is what we just did. Now, Justin Fields goes 111. Kyler Murray, Deshaun Watson. We do not have a single running back off the board here in the first round. The last draft, we picked at 10, and I decided to go Bijan Robinson at pick 10, and then we ended up getting Deshaun Watson on the way back around at the 203. But Playoff Vin instead decided to go ahead and take CeeDee Lamb, which can't fault anybody for taking Lamb. Maybe my brain is broken. Maybe we should reevaluate the situation, but in my mind, I don't know. When I view CeeDee Lamb, I don't put him in like, I don't know, the same ceiling category as someone like Bijan Robinson. Like I could see Bijan Robinson straight up winning you your Dynasty League, where I don't necessarily know if Lamb's doing that very often. I don't know. Now, Kevin coming out with a donation. Thank you, my friend, says, do you think Hard Knocks could help draft a redraft team? Last year, I noticed the Monroe's getting a lot of targets during Hard Knocks, so I drafted him. No, I do not think so, my friend. I understand that there is always the Hard Knocks bump, and yes, it did work out with the Monroe St. Brown this past year where people saw Monroe St. Brown speaking French, and they were like, oh, dear God, I got to draft this guy in every single league, and if you did, oh, crap, Mason, what are you doing here? I'm not going to lie, I was not paying attention. We'll go Taylor. Not a big deal one way or another. I mean, if you're going to be looking at our Dynasty rankings, I have a tier of running backs at the very top that includes Bijan Robinson, Breece Hall, Jonathan Taylor, and then Kenneth Walker in almost whatever order that you want. I don't think it's going to be a big deal one way or another. Maybe we could have gone Bryce Young. Maybe we could have gone Amon-Ra St. Brown. We'll just take Taylor here at the 208. And if you take Taylor here, however, you kind of are leaning to be a little bit more win now rather than win later. Obviously, if we were to go ahead and take Bryce Young, we'd maybe be playing for 2024 a little more than 2023. But yeah, going out, I think going back to Hard Knocks, it worked out this past year if you got on Amon-Ra St. Brown because of it. But there have been so many examples in the past of players being overdrafted just because Hard Knocks hype, just because we get very excited about seeing some actual football. Okay. Jason says, CD had 300 PPR points this year, and he's 23. I think he's just fine. I definitely don't want to talk down on CeeDee Lamb whatsoever. I was just saying maybe I'm not necessarily going to be all in on him at the 110. Like, let me go ahead and not necessarily just look at his raw points at the end of the season. Rather, let's go ahead and let's look at a points per game perspective. Yeah, points per game perspective, CeeDee Lamb was sitting as the wide receiver 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So the wide receiver 7, yes, incredibly young. I don't want to act like it's a bad pick at 10, but I don't know. I think maybe I just prefer Bijan. Okay, so Walker goes to 11. Like I said, Kenneth Walker, Jonathan Taylor are going to be in the same tier for me. Kyle Pitts going a little earlier. CMC going off the board as well. Okay, so what do we want to do? I think we may keep going with the trend of running back. I think we may go with Travis Etienne, drafted a little bit later than Taylor. I mean, Etienne drafted in 2021. Taylor drafted in 2020. Etienne stayed 4 years at Clemson. Taylor stayed 3, so they're both the same age. I don't know. I'm fine with it. I did see a mock draft that had the Jaguars going with Jahmyr Gibbs, which if that would happen, I don't know why they would do it, but it would be very, very, very bad for Travis Etienne. Lance goes to the 306. You know, I'm never going to fault anybody for going with our guy, Trey Lance. I'll say, if you're drafting on Underdog right now, the value on Lance is kind of insane. Okay. Matthew says, if Gibbs gets round 1 or early to mid round 2 draft capital, where would he be ranked compared to the other RBs? What I'm primarily waiting for with Jahmyr Gibbs, given the fact that he did not really get any work inside the 5-yard line in college, whether that's, I mean, at either of the schools he was at, and at the same time, he's known to be a little bit of a smaller back. I'm hoping that it's a Travis Etienne type scenario where, if y'all remember Etienne coming out of Clemson, everybody was worried, saying that Travis Etienne was too small, that Travis Etienne wasn't going to be able to handle a 3-down workload. I'm hoping that we end up getting Jahmyr Gibbs at the NFL Combine coming close to a 30 BMI. If he comes in and he has a BMI that's 30 or more, I wouldn't mind pushing Jahmyr Gibbs up to the 3rd round here if he gets 1st round NFL draft capital. And Jahmyr Gibbs goes here at the beginning of the 4th. I think in some of these other drafts, without knowing all the data, we ended up taking him in the middle of the 4th regardless. Okay, I don't want to speak too much. There are a few names that I'm praying make it back to us here at the 408. There are a few names that I actually almost considered taking there in the middle of the 3rd. Sweet Rise says, where do you have Hendon Hooker going in real life? To be honest with you, my friend, I have no freaking idea. Let me go to NFL Mock Draft Database to see where they're currently projecting him. I'm assuming that he's going to be a day 2 pick. Okay. NFL Mock Draft Database, which just compiles pretty much every mock draft, has Hendon Hooker going around pick 82. So, yeah, a day 2 pick there. Devonta Smith goes a 406. Love the Smith selection. That was one of the players that we were actually considering here in the 4th. I mean, in the 3rd. Phenomenal pick. Okay, so are we going to go with a little bit of an older approach? Freddie goes Hawkinson. That was not an auto pick. The guy highest on ADP was actually Travis Kelce. Do we go with a win now approach here? Let's go ahead. Let's take Cooper Kupp. Yes, in redraft leagues right now on Underdog in particular, you actually have Kelce going ahead of Kupp. Kupp's 29, about to be 30 this summer. Kelce's 33. I believe his birthday's in October. Will be 34 in October. Maybe it's September. It's one or the other. Bobcat says, would you draft Hendon Hooker in the 3rd round? Yeah, 3rd round of a 12-team Superflex league. I mean, assuming that he does end up going day 2 of the NFL draft, I'd be fine taking a swing on him there. Very similar. I mean, actually, Jalen Hurts was one of my most drafted players in the 2020 draft class in Superflex leagues. Not because I knew Jalen Hurts was going to be good. I had no idea if Jalen Hurts was going to be good or not, but I knew he was going to have a ton of rushing upside. So if you ever got to be a starter at the NFL level, you'd be a phenomenal option in fantasy. So we ended up drafting him a ton. Same thing with Hendon Hooker. I don't know if he'd be any good from an NFL standpoint, but he's going to have rushing upside. So if we can get him in the 3rd round of a rookie draft, we'll take him. Frederick says, I wanted Devonta Smith so bad. Hawkinson wasn't too exciting, but I still like it. Yeah, I mean, I can't blame you, my friend. If you were sitting there with the possibility of going JSN, Tua, or Devonta Smith, and they all go right before you, Hawkinson, I mean, I think we kind of just got boxed out. I mean, I would have been way happier if I got one of those players instead. Let me pull up my Dynasty rankings and see where we have Cup in comparison to Addison. Like I said, I feel like when we go Taylor round 2, we're kind of forced a little bit here to go win now. I don't think we have to go all in win now, but if we were going to lean one way or another. Yeah, Cup was the highest ranked player for us. Very surprised to see London go as high as he did here in the middle of the third. Chris Godwin off the board, 503. I like the Will Levis selection a lot. If Will Levis would have made it back to us in the middle of the 5th, we would have taken a swing. Okay, I think I know where we're going to go. Tony Pollard off the board. Let's go ahead and let's take Christian Watson here at 505. I mean, I feel like we just have a very weird team. It's balanced, obviously, but don't love it. I mean, it's hard to have a bad team when you get a top 6 pick. I was a little bit more excited coming into the draft, given the fact that we had that top 6 pick and we were going to be able to start with the Justin Herbert. I thought we were really going to be able to build a juggernaut. Maybe we can continue to improve the team down the road, but we'll see. I'm fine with Christian Watson here at the 505. Daniel Jones goes 507. I have a quarterback that I want in the end of the 6th. We'll see. We'll see. B. Morris says, what do you think of King Henry and Austin Eckler next year? Do they finally fall off or do they keep on putting up points? So Derrick Henry, I believe, going to be 29, if not 29 already. I think actually he has a January birthday. Let me pull this up. Yeah, he's a January birthday. He just turned 29. Eckler is going to be, he was drafted in 2017, but he stayed all 4 years in school, so he's going to be 28, right? Yeah, Eckler will be 28 in May. I'm going to be more comfortable projecting Eckler later on in his NFL career, maybe than Derrick Henry, because Derrick Henry wins with physicality. Derrick Henry wins with athleticism. Whereas Austin Eckler wins because he's in an elite level offense and he can catch the ball. So I would be more willing to bet that the athleticism goes before the passing down ability for either running back. So I'm more comfortable projecting Eckler over the next 2 seasons than I am Derrick Henry. Okay. Anthony Richardson goes at the beginning of the 6th. Phenomenal Anthony Richardson pick. I was really hoping that he's going to make it back to us at the 608. I mean, I think that both Richardson and Will Levis, if you're hopping in underdog drafts right now, are probably 2 of the best values on the board. I've been drafting them nonstop in like the 18th and 19th rounds. Okay, Pickens has been falling here a bit. Honestly, Pickens probably should have been falling compared to where he's going earlier in drafts. I mean, earlier this offseason. Okay. Kenny Pickett goes 605. I think we're probably, I don't want to say too much. Let's wait until we're on the clock. Okay, Pittman goes 606. Did not like Pittman last year at his ADP, but now I feel like it is a much better price point to be paying. I think we're probably going to end up getting, I don't want to say our guy, but getting the guy that we're looking at. And I'm going to have some explaining to do after this pick. Okay, DJ Moore is 607. So if you're looking at the draft board right now at wide receiver, I feel like a lot of these guys are in the same tier. Whereas if we're going over to quarterback, after Russell Wilson, I do see a significant fall off. I'm going to go ahead. We're going to take Russell Wilson here at the end of the 6th. We are taking Russell Wilson in pretty much every single one of these startups at the beginning of the offseason when he was going in the 7th. Sean Payton coming over has given Wilson some more hype, where if you are taking him, usually you have to take him in the 6th now. I'll say I don't want to sit here and act like Sean Payton's going to save Russell Wilson by any means. The main reason I'm taking Russell Wilson here in the 6th is because the man has the contract. He is essentially the guaranteed starting quarterback for the Denver Broncos at minimum the next 2 seasons. And while, yes, Russell Wilson failed in dramatic fashion this past year, and keep in mind, we made a lot of money from the Denver Broncos offense failing when we faded the hell out of them. But we can maybe make an excuse for Russell Wilson if he's going to be able to turn it around. That Tim Patrick went down before the season. Albert O injured at the beginning of the season. Cortland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy both missed time. KJ Hamler missed the majority of the year as well. Javonte Williams missed the majority of the season. They had a horrible coaching staff. So I'm not some Russ truther, but at the same time, the contract and the contract alone just gives you the job security. And I think we're going to go Kittle here without thinking too much about it, right? Yeah, I feel like at tight end, we probably have a teardrop after George Kittle. Kittle, another one of these guys, very similar to Cooper Kupp, drafted in 2017, but stayed a very long time in school, so he's actually going to be a little bit older here. Actually, no, let me pull this up. Yeah, so 29, I think gonna be 30. It was funny, in that 2017 draft class, we were all, and by we, I mean primarily I was, so excited about David Njoku, so excited about O.J. Howard, so excited about Evan Ingram, calling it the best draft class at the tight end position ever. And then George Kittle ends up being the guy from day 3. Luke says he really likes the Kittle value. Thank you, my friend. Thank you. Dobbins, Dalvin, McLaurin, Henry all go directly after. I feel like Dobbins is just someone that's very difficult to draft right now with the possibility that Baltimore decides to do something. Like, I wouldn't even be that surprised if Baltimore just goes out of their way and tries to sign a running back this offseason that's just a depth piece. Someone like Alexander Mattison to just kind of split the backfield there with Dobbins. So a little bit worried about Dobbins in particular. I'd probably rather go like Terry McLaurin there, to be honest. Mr. Padilla says, I love Goff in a startup. I'm taking Russell Wilson over Jared Goff. I understand why you would. Jared Goff is younger. Jared Goff just had the better season. Jared Goff is also on a better roster. I think that if we were going to be looking at the main thing that makes these players different, in my opinion, from a dynasty value perspective, is, I hate to continue to say it, but the contract. Next year, say, hypothetical scenario. I know this would be way out of left field and nobody is ever expecting this to happen. But let's go down this crazy path here, right? What if the Detroit Lions are bad next year? I know that would never happen. I know the Detroit Lions are never bad. I know they have a great roster, but what if? Let's just play this crazy what if game. What if the Detroit Lions are bad next year and they could end up saving $26 million from moving on from Jared Goff? Whereas with the Denver Broncos, how much money could they save from moving on from Russell Wilson? They could save $0 for moving on from him next year. They could save $6 million for moving on from him in 2025. Really, the first time in my mind that Russell Wilson could probably not be the starter there would be 2026. So it's just in my mind, the contract. And I think we have a very easy pick here. I think we're going to go Zach Charbonnet, who at this point looks like probably the easy RB3 in this class. Don't know the testing numbers yet, and that does have a massive role in how we're evaluating these rookie running backs. But what we do know about Zach Charbonnet is it's a running back that has the size to be a 3-down player and can catch the ball out of the backfield. So if you have the size to be a 3-down guy and you can catch the ball out of the backfield, and at this point, he looks like he's going to be a day 2 draft pick, I like it. Okay, so now we have James Cook going 8'11", Alvin Kamara 8'10". I'll say, going back to those underdog drafts, I'm sorry, I'm just addicted to those. I've been doing so many lately. I've been taking James Cook in a ton of them. A ton of them. So Isaiah Pacheco goes here at the end of the 8th. Piano says Terry McLaurin over Jahan Dotson, question mark. Yeah, so here Terry McLaurin goes 708. Jahan Dotson goes 804. If I'm going to be looking at my wide receiver rankings, I have Jahan Dotson ranked wide receiver 27, and I have Terry McLaurin ranked wide receiver 28. So, I mean, I personally have Dotson and McLaurin over both of them, over them. But I actually have both of them over George Pickens. I don't know. I'm just not a George Pickens guy. Geno Smith, 903. Deontay Johnson. We could probably wait around. I know we probably could, but I'm not going to try to get cute with it. I'm just going to go ahead and take Matthew Stafford here in the middle of the 9th. Stafford, yeah, not a sexy pick, but with quarterback, really don't care about the age in Dynasty, if I'm going to be honest with you. Stafford, I think it just makes a lot of sense that probably the elbow injury was bothering him more than we realized this past year. Not only was the elbow injury probably bothering him, but you also had everybody with the Los Angeles Rams getting injured, the entire team falling apart. I think they'll probably come back this next season. Don't know if they win the Super Bowl by any means, but probably are a lot better. B. Moore says Stafford's career was almost over with his last injury, LOL. Keyword was almost, my friend. And also, big thing is we're drafting him in the same round as Geno Smith and Jordan Love. So I'm fine with that kind of investment, to be honest with you. So Aaron Jones going 9-12. I mean, just going back to what we've been discussing earlier, I think it's so hard to draft those veteran running backs. Someone like, say, Eckler in the 4th, CMC in the 3rd, Mixon in the 6th. Like, in my mind, I can't imagine taking, like, Mixon in the 6th instead of just Aaron Jones at the 9-10 turn or Kamara at the 8-9 turn. Okay, Waller goes. And Jalen Hyatt goes 10-02. Sanders has been falling a ton since the Super Bowl. I think people just saw his fumble issues firsthand and realized, oh, okay, that's probably not a great situation. Aaron Rodgers goes to the 10-04. I think I know where we're going to go with this next pick. Brian Robinson has had a fall from grace as well. I mean, if y'all remember whenever he came back initially, how pumped people were with Brian Robinson. I mean, every time we went through to sell him high, we had to be very careful. We were like essentially walking on eggshells saying, I know it's the best story ever. I know we're all rooting for the guy, but you got to sell Brian Robinson now. He'll never have as much value, blah, blah, blah. I like the Zay Flowers selection. I mean, I think talking Zay Flowers, #1 wide receiver in this draft class, way too aggressive, but here it's going to be fine. And I hate to do it. We're going to take our 4th starting quarterback here, Mac Jones. I'm just very comfortable getting a starting quarterback, saying, okay, by the time we get closer to the season, looking at some of these other teams, like this team that only has Jordan Love, Aaron Rodgers, that would be able to go through and trade away. I'd be confident saying maybe Mac Jones and a future rookie pick and going out of our way and getting like a Jahan Dotson, for example, or maybe if that playoff Vin team, I mean, doesn't have Anthony Richardson starting right away and is only really rolling with Kirk Cousins, being able to go through and trade away a player like Mac Jones to get, I don't know. I don't even know if we would want Cam Akers, but you know what I mean. You get the drift, especially once you get the New England Patriots either trading for DeAndre Hopkins this offseason, possibly not trading for DeAndre Hopkins, possibly just taking like a Jordan Addison in round 1. We'll see what happens. Parker says, Jones restructuring really gave me confidence at the 9-12. Yeah, I 100% agree with you. I think that now Aaron Jones with his restructured contract, very strong selection at the 9-12. That's what I was saying. Like, in my mind, the difference between Mixon and Aaron Jones isn't really large, where if I was taking a veteran running back, I wouldn't be taking one of these veteran running backs here in the middle rounds. I'd just be waiting till the end to take Aaron Jones. Rental Turtle says, who's better for next year, CMC, Eckler, or JT? If you're talking like redraft perspective, I think everybody's going to be in consensus that it's CMC right now. If you're looking at underdog leagues, CMC's going at 3. I think Eckler is an ADP of 7. JT is going at the 1-2 turn. Okay, James Conner goes. What do we want here? Do we go David Njoku? I know we already have a tight end, but still. I think we're going to go with David Njoku. David Njoku actually has one of the best contracts in the NFL. He's getting paid a crap ton for a tight end. To go along with this, if we're going to be looking at the weapons that you have in Cleveland, there aren't too many guys. You have Amari Cooper, you have David Bell, you have Donovan Peoples-Jones, and that's it. I mean, if you're looking at what the Cleveland Browns paid to go out of their way and bring in Deshaun Watson, they gave the most guaranteed money in NFL history. At the same time, they ended up giving 3 first-round picks to go get Watson himself. So they really don't have a ton of resources to go and make plays for weapons to surround Deshaun Watson with. So I feel comfortable with David Njoku here in the middle of the 11th. I think another player we could have gone with is Brock Purdy, but I don't want to make this mock draft, I mean, the craziest thing in the world where we go through and take 5 starting quarterbacks. And to be fair, I don't know if Brock Purdy is a starting QB, but it is what it is. It is what it is. I think Brock Purdy could have been someone. Yeah. Mr. Benitez says, just traded away Cam Akers and the 214 for Gabe Davis in a 14-team Superflex start 9. I mean, if we're going to be looking at this draft here, you actually have Cam Akers going at the 803, Gabe Davis going at the 906. I don't mind the idea of going through and trading for Gabe Davis right now. I think his price point is significantly better than where it was last offseason. Last offseason was horrible. But at the same time, I don't see why we're having to go up and give additional capital to do so, if that makes sense. Okay. Now, Sutton, Tony. Okay, where are we going with this last pick? We could always go Tom Brady and just make sure that we have the leader in the locker room. I feel like if you take Tom Brady, automatically your team should just be better. Lockett, Greg Dolchich. We could go with the Homer pick to cap it off. We're going to go with the Homer pick, even if it's going to be a bad selection. I just kind of want to make a statement here. At this time, it is probably a good thing to just be taking bets on extremely cheap rookie running backs. The primary reason we're going to draft Sean Johnson is because hook 'em Lawrence. And that's about it. But at the same time, I do like the idea of going through, trying to invest into cheap rookie running backs, just trying to find someone that could see their value skyrocket by the time we get to the NFL draft. But let me go ahead and let me show off this draft board. Of course, if you enjoyed this draft, go down there, drop a like. I think that's all I got for you. If you want to get in our next one, you can find the link in the live chat. We're going to be doing a ton of underdog drafts soon. Promo code FLOCK. They'll match first deposit. And at the same time, you'll get our 2023 Dynasty rankings. But thank you so much. I truly appreciate all of you. Really hope you have a great day and really hope I get to see you with the video tomorrow.